This is Euronews Now. I'm Helena Humphrey, and here are your top stories. Millions are plunged into darkness across eastern Ukraine after Russian strikes on electricity plants amid Kyiv's dramatic counter-offensive operation. Sweden's far right is set to make landmark gains with its best ever election result, though the final outcome from Sunday's poll isn't expected until Wednesday. And the Queen's coffin is being taken to St Giles's Cathedral in Edinburgh, where it'll remain under a 24-hour vigil while King Charles makes his first address to the UK's Parliament.
Ukrainian troops are gaining ground metre by metre, liberating dozens of villages in eastern Ukraine. They've now reached the border with Russia in the Kharkiv region. UK defence officials say the Ukrainian army's successes will have significant implications for Russia's overall operation design.
Forces have managed to drive the enemy out of more than 20 localities. Measures are being taken to stabilize them and bring them under full control.
Residents have been evacuating border towns, as Ukraine says it has regained control of more than 3,000 square kilometres of territory, a potential breakthrough in the 6-month war. The Kremlin-appointed leader of Chechnya has criticised Russian military for the battlefield setbacks. Special units from Russia's Republic of Chechnya have returned to Ukraine after so-called rest. Its head, Adam Delimkenov, is threatening more assault, similar to what was seen in Mariupol earlier this year.
Those breakthroughs and those places that are occupied, several cities and villages in the Kharkiv region and on the front lines, where Nazis and devils have entered today. We will show you more, just as we promised you when we entered Mariupol.
At the end of April, Vladimir Putin awarded the Hero of Russia title to Adam Delimkenov. Then it was reported that he personally controlled the assault operation at the Azovstal steel plant.
Burnt-out cars, abandoned buildings and lifeless bodies. This is the scene Ukrainian troops recounted as they reached villages that spent months under Russian control. In Zalesnichna, a small commune in southeast Ukraine, residents are starting to tell stories of life alongside Russia's army, with some speaking of cruelty and looting. War crime investigators are assessing the village, where they've reported finding bodies of 2 men who had allegedly been shot dead.
I still can't believe they've gone, and we are now out of the period of death.
I was scared, very scared. This image of a puddle of blood is still in front of my eyes, a huge puddle of blood.
Villagers here are currently living without electricity after power was cut and is yet to be restored.
The Russians were here in the morning, then at noon they suddenly started shouting wildly and began to run away, charging off in tanks and armoured vehicles.
The village is one of several reached by Ukrainian troops during their counter-offensive that's forced Russian soldiers to abandon territory gained earlier in the war. Ukraine's military claims to have recaptured 3,000 square kilometres since early September. It's celebration time for the Sweden Democrats, the country's far-right anti-immigration party that's set to send a strong message with its best-ever poll result, with around a fifth of the vote. But for now, they can only rely on exit polling, as Sunday's election is so close that officials say the final outcome won't be known until Wednesday. It's expected that a bloc of right-wing parties, including the Sweden Democrats, will form a new government to defeat a left-wing bloc that's ruled for 8 years.
We really are now a big party. I am so proud and I'm so glad of what we have done together to achieve this.
With around 90% of the vote now counted, many are anticipating this election will mark a shift towards the right in Sweden and the end of power for the coalition led by Prime Minister Magdalena Andersson.
Now Swedish democracy must take its course, all votes must be counted, and we'll wait for a result. In the meantime, let's hope we had a good election, we had a good result, and we had a fantastic campaign. Thank you.
Regardless of who comes out on top, Sweden is likely to face a lengthy process to form a government, as it did after the 2018 election.
As you just heard, the Sweden Democrats could be a key kingmaker after all of the votes are counted in Sweden's election. Here in theCUBE, we'll take a closer look at its leader and the direction of the party in recent years. So this is the party's main man. His name is Jimmie Åkesson. He became the leader of the party in 2005 when he was just in his mid-20s. He wanted to change the party. He was part of its modernising wing. And it's clear to see in this image here. It's an old election leaflet, and as you can see, it's got SD, Sweden Democrats, on it. An image of a Viking man, which says, Bevara Sverige svenskt, or in English, keep Sweden Swedish. A very provocative message. But with Åkesson, this sort of stuff was put out of the party, in the place of a softer image. And you can see it from the party's logo under him. It became a dainty flower in the colours of Sweden's national flag, in the place of a burning torch, a symbol quite common with other far-right parties in Europe. The party started discussing things like law and order rather than overtly racial comments. And it was helped by the fact that violence in Sweden has ballooned massively in recent years. Take a look at this example. In April this year, there were many violent disturbances in cities and towns across Sweden, mainly by violent Muslim protesters and others who are unhappy that a Danish far-right leader came to Sweden to burn the Holy Quran. A provocative action for sure, but one that isn't illegal in Swedish law. And it kind of tied into the party's image, that there is a problem with high levels of immigration, that it's leading to Swedish society fraying at the seams. And this has all had a massive electoral effect. Take a look at this graph. In 2006, just 1 year after Åkesson became leader, he got about 3% of the vote. Fast forward to 2022, he's on over 20% of the vote, which likely means that he'll be the second largest party in parliament. Crucially, over the same time period, his party has become more accepted. It's now part of the broad right-wing bloc in the country, which could come to power after all of the votes are counted. So Åkesson has certainly succeeded in rebranding his party from what it was in the eyes of many Swedes. However, as the man nears some form of power, many Swedes are asking whether this is a substantive policy change or whether it's mere window dressing in order to gain votes.
Westminster in London has been the focus of the day's events as the UK continues to mourn Queen Elizabeth II. Her son, King Charles III, attended a ceremony in which he received the condolences of members of Parliament. He again paid tribute to the late sovereign.
I am deeply grateful for the addresses of condolence by the House of Lords and the House of Commons, which so touchingly encompass what our late sovereign, my beloved mother, the Queen, meant to us all. As Shakespeare says of the earlier Queen Elizabeth, she was a pattern to all princes living.
Later, King Charles and Queen Consort Camilla flew to Scotland, where the Queen died last Thursday. Her body has been lying in the royal residence at Holyrood House in Edinburgh after transfer from the Balmoral estate where she passed away. Her coffin will lie in state at St Giles Cathedral in the city for 24 hours, giving members of the public a chance to pay their respects. Her funeral will take place next Monday in London.
Stay with us, we've got plenty more coming up after a short break.